What's up, my Yu-Gi Bros? I'm your host, the one, the only, the RJB0. Welcome back to Decks and Techs Week. We are starting off with a Monday Mermail deck. This is a update to the one I gave you guys a little while back, in which I changed around some of the card ratios in here and some of the card choices in order to help strengthen a couple of the weaknesses of the deck and play more to its strengths. So one of the deck's big strengths is the really massive combos that it can make, and the big weakness that it has is access to combo pieces. Now, in previous formats, we've always had combo pieces to work with. We've always had either 3 title and the 7-star sword, or, triple Gund or triple Dragoons. We've always had some really big combo piece to work with, until recently when we've had to start making do without as many combo pieces. So I'm finding new ways to make the ratios of the deck so that it can recycle the combo pieces it has left as efficiently as possible. So let's get down to the deck. We start off with the obligatory 7s, our triple Teus, our 1 lead, and our 1 Megalo. The 7s are the most important cards in the deck, essentially, because they make your best plays. They make your Gaioses, and they make your Big Eyes. Your Big Eye is probably your best card. I have never gone a match without making Big Eye, and Big Eye often wins me games, and Abyss Gaios is just frickin' phenomenal in the Burning Abyss matchup. So the 7s are probably the most important. I'm running 1 Megalo and 1 lead as opposed to running multiple Megalos because lead is a bigger card and I don't want to draw multiple big 7s. Teus is fine because it only requires you to have 1 combo piece to discard for it, as opposed to Megalo and lead, which both require at least 2. So I like the 1 and 1, and I almost always have access to these 2 monsters when I need them. Moving on to our 4s engine, we are running triple Abyss Pike and 1 Abyss Turge. I would probably run more Turge if we had more guns, but as for now, I am only running 1. I wasn't running it before, but it is so important to be able to recycle your Atlanteans and your Abyss Gund that this card really, this really increases the number of combos you have available to you. I always open with it for some reason, which is absolutely terrible, but you can always discard it for Teus or for Pike for a 1-for-1. Then we run, of course, the triple Lind because it's your best combo piece because it's access to any combo piece. I like being able to choose my Mermails. And we go to our discard fodder. We start off with the 1 Gund because this is probably your best discard fodder. It increases the number of combo pieces you have available to you, which is great. So does Dragoons. Dragoons is pretty great too. I run my 3 Marksmen and 1 infantry. I wish I just had 1 more Atlantean to work with besides another infantry. I don't like infantry that much. It works sometimes, like I need to have it in this deck at a 1-of because it is easy out to something like Vanity's Emptiness or another problem card on the field, but a lot of the time if you have this in your hand, you don't really want it in your hand. You kind of want it in your deck so that you can either search for it off of Dragoons or send it to the grave for Undyne. But as a combo piece, like, it's necessary, but I wish that we had a better combo piece to work with. Then we have 1 Undyne and 1 Controller. This is a departure from what I did earlier. I used to run multiple Undynes and multiple Controllers, but I found I was just drawing Controller so often that it was just a real problem for this deck, and Allure of Darkness really didn't help with that. I just really didn't want to have to work around the possibility of drawing this card. 1 Undyne and 1 Controller is really nice. Also, even if you really need that Undyne, it is still searchable, which is pretty great. Of course, we have to have the title involved. This is usually what you pitch for Undyne. And then finally, 1 Deep Sea Diva, because Armades is really good, and if you open with Salvage and Deep Sea Diva, you can Diva into Marksman and synchro them, and then salvage them back, and then use them for, like, Megalo or something like that. So that's really good. That's it for the monster lineup. We are moving on to our 3 spells, which are 1 Soul Charge and 2 Salvage. The loss of 1 Soul Charge really wasn't a big deal for this deck because Salvage is the way better combo piece. Salvage gives you access to discard fodder, which is what this deck needs the most. And so if you have 2 Salvages in here, as long as you are using your Pikes and your Teuses properly, you're always going to have targets for this card. I'd almost run 3 if I had more good discard outlets and more cards to add back with Salvage. We move on to the trap lineup. we start off with the obligatory triple sphere. Triple trap stun. Triple trap stun is something I tried after going against the Burning Abyss matchup and having to deal with just a ton of chainable trap cards. If I can just open a turn with trap stun and then not have to worry about my monsters getting touched by anything, that's way better. Plus, it allows me to turn off my emptiness for a turn, which is pretty great. And it stops the Artifact Sanctum play, which is really powerful against this deck. Speaking of Double Vanity's Emptiness, we are running Double Vanity's Emptiness. I caved because this card is just so good, and you don't even need to keep it on the board for more than a turn in order for it to work properly. It just stops plays you can't stop with just the 2 breakthrough skill that I'm running. 2 breakthrough skill is actually really amazing. I really like this card. It stops basically every deck this format. It can block your opponent's plays with their shadow monsters if they like flip a Falco or something, that you can block it and then you can turn off Winda during your turn. You can do things where, like against the Teller Knights, you can block a Deneb or Altair play, and then later if they make Abyss Dweller, you can just banish this from the graveyard to turn off the Abyss Dweller. It's just a really amazing card. I advocate running at least 2 of this card, if not like 3 of this card and multiple Forbidden Chalice, because Effect Negation is so good this format. I'm running double Phoenix Wing Wind Blast because there are so many combo pieces that you can afford to discard, especially like if you have a Gund in your hand late game. And you can discard the Gund off of Wing Blast to reset a card in your opponent's deck. Then you can get your Gund's effect and summon a lead from your graveyard, so you get field presence and removal. Also, this is a really good way to get rid of Controller without having to normal summon. Finally, we have 1 compulsory evacuation device and 1 solemn warning for obvious reasons. Let's move on to the extra deck, shall we? We start with 1 Armades because Diva and because this card is amazing against Burning Abyss and Shadows. Then 1 Leo and 1 Black Rose. Our 7s for our Xyz are number 11 Big Eye, 1 Drakasek, and 1 Mermail Abyss Gaios. These 2 cards are like the MVPs of this deck. The 7s are just freaking amazing. And then you have your 4 4s, your Abyss Dweller, your Castel, number 101, and Bahamut Shark. I am considering taking one of these out in order to run Emerald again. I just didn't have the room to run Emerald, and I haven't summoned it yet. In a duel with this deck. I know that it's really good late game for this deck, especially if, you can make it and you've got like an Armades in your grave and you can salvage back a Diva, then you can remake the Armades. There are so many dumb things that you can do with a Daigusto Emerald in this deck, but you have yet to summon it because I've never gotten to the point in the game in which Emerald is good. I am running 5 3s and they are all really good. We start off with Alucard, which is good for taking out your opponent's face down cards. It's really good use for getting rid of things like Dead Undines and stuff like that. You can just summon this card, and then you can hit your opponents like Falco or something, and that forces the Falco to resummon itself, and then you can just run over the Falco with the Alucard. Alucard is just such a good card. Leviair is one of the best combo pieces in the game. I love using this card in this deck because you can banish like a Lind or something with Tidal, and then you can overlay for Leviair, and then summon the Lind and run into a monster for like a lead or a Megalo or something, and then run over a bunch of monsters during the battle phase, and then make a 7 during the main phase 2. Leviair is just such a good card. Engineer is really good for protecting your Abyss Gaios. Abyss Trite for the Bahamut Shark, and then finally wind up Zenmaines because it gets rid of a lot of cards that are problematic for this deck. For instance, D-Fissure and Macrocosmos and things like that. So that is the extra deck. Let's move on to the side deck. We start off with 3 Max C's because it punishes your opponent for special summoning, which is amazing in the Burning Abyss matchup. It gives you more combo pieces to work with, and this deck can punish players for special summoning under Max C better than almost any other deck in the game. 2 Flying Sea because I can draw into it with Max C and block Burning Abyss plays, so I can get the plus off of Max C and then Raigeki their field with Flying Sea. It's really good. And then I've got the 2 DD Crow, which is another hand trap I can draw into that blocks out Altair plays. It can block out a lot of plays against Shadows. There are just so many dumb things that you can do with DD Crow, and you can draw into it with Maxi and use it during the same turn. Our trap cards are 2 Light Imprisoning Mirror and 3 Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, self-explanatory, and finally our spells are triple MST because this deck loses to Floodgate cards so hard. I've lost so many times because I couldn't get rid of a damn D-Fissure or a Macrocosmos or something like that, or Soul Drain. I freaking hate D-Fissure. So that's the deck. I hope you guys like this deck. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you didn't, let me know why in the comment section below. And of course, subscribe for more decks, discussion, analysis, and general Yu-Gi-Oh! Shenanigans. I have more decks and techs coming up this week. Tomorrow is a tech talk for Tuesday in the fashion of my good friend Simo. And I will see you guys then. I got a jet. See ya.